The government of Canada hates their population so much that they are just going out in the House of Commons now and nonchalantly telling the Canadian people that 100,000 migrants are arriving in the country a year, don't have to speak to any federal officials. They download an app on their phone, click a couple buttons, and they enter the country. 100,000 migrants a year entering this country. No interaction whatsoever with a border patrol agent. Take a couple of minutes on an app and they're in. The Liberal Party of Canada is also admitting that of those 100,000, 10,000, they require that with that app, you have submitted all of your information within 45 days of entering the country. 10 of those 100,000 never fill out the paperwork, so they're in Canada legally. We are literally in Canada begging people to come into this country illegally. It's unlike anything I've ever seen in my life. There are ads that the government of Canada is running today stating that we have free healthcare in Canada, inviting people in. It's insanity. They hate our population. We know definitively that these unprecedented immigration rates over the past 10 years are a major contributor to the reason that we have a 22% youth male unemployment rate, that we have the second weakest economy in the G7. And what does our government do? They continue to make it easier and easier. We already have 26.4% of the entire Canadian population is a first-year immigrant, is a first-generation immigrant. Unprecedented. And they're inviting more in. They hate you. When you have a housing crisis, like since 2015, when Justin Trudeau was elected, our rental and ownership prices were about on par with the US. Since then, they've exploded. They're about 40% higher in Canada than they are in the US right now, largely thanks to these insane, unprecedented mass immigration numbers. And what does our government continue to do in 2025? They're going to allow 1.5 million new people into the country at the same time as they're only building 225,000 houses. Can you please explain to me how that makes any sense whatsoever unless you hate your population, when affordability is the number one issue for the vast majority of Canadians? Rental and housing prices have skyrocketed in perfect coordination with inviting 8 million people into Canada in the last 10 years alone. And the government's continuing to do it. This despite the fact that poll after poll, Canada historically was the most pro-immigrant, one of the most pro-immigration countries out there. You can't say, oh, you're racist, xenophobes. Canada has always welcomed immigrants. But for whatever reason, in 2015, we totally changed from bringing high-skilled immigrants to opening up the floodgates for everybody. And it has resulted in basic supply and demand. This isn't a surprise whatsoever. You flood the zone with unprecedented numbers of immigrants. And all of a sudden, no wonder that housing and rental prices have jumped as high as they have. GDP per capita, which is considered to be the best measure of how your average citizen is doing economically. When Trudeau was elected in 2015, GDP per capita, we were about on par with the US. Since then, the states have grown 2% a year. Canada in the past 11 years has grown a total of 0.2%. Again, the biggest reason for that is immigration. For whatever reason now, we used to bring in only high-skilled immigrants. We used to have an immigration system that was the whole world envied. Now we let anybody in, 100,000 people a year, just show up at the Canadian border, don't even have to deal with an agent face-to-face, go fill out an app. 10% of them never even fill that app out. You think the cops are ever going to go fund? We're now seeing protests all over Canada from people whose visas have expired saying that they should be allowed to stay. And we're going to see more and more and more. And these are people with foreign flags, non-Canadian flags, not speaking English. These people are not even speaking English. How is this enriching our country? This is enriching an incredibly small percentage of very wealthy people like Mark Carney and Brookfield Asset Management, who already own billions and billions of dollars worth of real estate. And this real estate boom has been fantastic for them. But for your average middle, lower class Canadian, these past 11 years of these woke policies have been an absolute catastrophe. And like all communists, they refuse to learn the lesson from the mistakes they've made. They refuse to change their policy. Mark Carney, despite the fact that the polling has never been extreme against the levels of immigration that we're seeing now, the majority of Canadians want a moratorium a total shutdown for a period of time. What does Carney say? 2025, we're going to allow 1.5 million people in, continuing the population growth of 3% a year. I'm not going to cite all the studies, but study after study after study shows that if you continue to bring in millions of people every year to a country like Canada with the green initiatives we have set up that are handicapping our economy, it's not a question of if, it's definitive. Our economy is going to get hurt. Everyday Canadians are going to continue to lower and lower our standard of living. How insane is it to have a government that is implementing policies that are going to lower everyday Canadian standard of living intentionally, knowing that's what's going to happen? Meanwhile, the Canadian economy has shed, it was just announced, $85 billion since Carney was elected. $85 billion. 2 straight quarters of GDP contraction. We're in a recession. Brookfield Asset Management, Mark Carney's company, they just happen to be up 45% since he was elected. His 600 some odd stocks, 90% of which are based in the US, they're up an average of 30 some odd percent. So who is Mark Carney working for? Is Mark Carney working on behalf of the Canadian people? There is not a shot in hell. Mark Carney is working on behalf of his personal interests, and his entire career has been in service of the WF, Davos, Brookfield Asset Management, these global elite institutions that could give less than one shit about the average middle or lower class Canadian. Canadians need to start having some self-respect and stand up for ourselves. These politicians, the government works for us. A good government is one that keeps you safe and stays out of your life. And that is the exact opposite of what we're getting in Canada right now. They want more and more say in your life. Bill C-8, Bill C-9, rolling back free speech unlike anything we've ever seen in Canada. They want to be able to cut your internet service without any notification. If they don't like what you're saying in Canada, just cut your internet service. They want to be able to throw you in prison for life for so-called hate speech. And we all know exactly what type of speech it is they're going. These people are authoritarians. They are authoritarians, which is why I've started the Fight for Canada Party. I've submitted all the paperwork. Thank you so much, everybody who signed up. Got well over the 250 signatures needed, because we need somebody who actually has the weight of a party behind them, who's going to go out and point out exactly what's going on. I'm sick of these milquetoast critiques from the Conservatives. This is insanity. At our border, we are literally begging people to come in. How is this working for the Canadian people? The answer is it is not. It is working for a set of global elite interests that have absolutely zero overlap with what is good for your average everyday Canadian. Stay tuned. Once the party is official, I'm going to be going after Carney and the Liberals extremely hard. These guys are trying to destroy our beautiful country, which is exactly what Carney is attempting to do. Please like, share, subscribe, join, become a member, donate, grab some gear. Really appreciate everybody who supports, and stay tuned. It should take about another 30 days to officially be registered.